Hello everyone, Michael Kelly. I thought it would be useful to provide on this page some details and background on each of the books in the Apophis series, because there's quite a range of them now, and I know that people are sometimes wondering whether they should get a certain one or not. So I thought a series which discussed each one in turn and just what it dealt with and where it was coming from would be quite convenient. And of course, the first one we have to deal with is Apophis itself. Um, a book of just over 300 pages. It was published in 2009, so it's 12 years old now, but it's actually older than that. Uh, Much of the early material in the first chapters of Apophis first appeared in a small red journal that was published um, in the early days of what was then called the Order of Apep, from 2003 onwards. So the material in that book, a lot of it is now almost 20 years old, and many of its concepts go back further than that to my time in the Temple of Set when I became the Grand Master of the Order of Leviathan. That's where the seal of the Eye of Leviathan itself, which is behind me here and on the cover of the book, was devised. Apophis was written for some very specific reasons. I wanted to produce a book which worked, which was not theory, but which was almost entirely practice, which did not require any belief or prior knowledge from the people who picked it up, and which could be guaranteed to produce reliable results if its curriculum of work was followed. And that's not actually a difficult thing to do once I set down to doing it, but it's something which so many books don't do. You won't find any tradition in Apophis. All of the exercises that are described there are generic ones. You don't have to be following the ideas of ancient Egypt or the Kabbalah or the runes or Celtic mythology or any other system in order to use Apophis. It refers to them in passing now and then, but prior knowledge is not required. Because it was very important to me to demonstrate that the Apophis curriculum stood on its own 2 feet. Here were a set of exercises and practices which stood for themselves, did not require any previous knowledge or belief, but if you practiced them, changes would happen. You would experience things. It doesn't matter if you believe in the supernatural or not. If you carry out the exercises in the first head of Apophis, you will find that your senses sharpen. You will learn your physical limits because these are simple, measurable, objective things which cannot be doubted. If you carry out the work of the second head of Apophis, your attention will sharpen. Your focus will improve. Your mental abilities will improve. Your realization of how your thoughts arise, how they're shaped, what is shaping them, will improve. These are all objective, measurable results. And if you carry out the work of the first two heads diligently, then proceed to the third head, which deals with the subconscious. You will find that these intuitions and psychic flashes, which people speak of, you begin to experience them because you have prepared the ground for them to happen. Again, no belief required, no prior knowledge required. You do certain things diligently and certain results follow. And this is why I wrote Apophis. There is philosophy in there, of course. We begin to deal with this with the work of the fourth head and this wonderful diagram of the eye in the void. The process of opening the eye in the void is the process of discovering who we really are, of looking deep within, beyond the masks of personality, of conditioning, of societal programming, to just discover that raw, pure flame of consciousness, of being, and to trace it back to its origin, to see where we've come from, and to project where we may go. And this leads to the exciting work of the fifth, sixth, and seventh heads, which are discussed in Apophis. But so much of their material, there are exercises certainly for the fifth head, and suggestions for the sixth head as to where these can be taken. But so much from that point on is in the hands of the individual, and you'll be perfectly empowered to take it forward. Apophis is now an old publication. It's a book I'm very proud of. It's the foundation of the Apophis curriculum, and that curriculum is expanded, reshaped, restated, developed in all of the books that followed on from it. But that remains the core. I've been tempted several times to rewrite it, but I've resisted the temptation. It's important sometimes that things should be left as they stand, and the ideas developed further, and you can see the development as you read later books. It is an old book, and many of the ideas in it have been developed further. And that's why I always encourage people to read the more recent books too. But we'll be talking about them in their turn and some of the enhancements that were made. But Apophis itself is certainly the first book to get, because it gives you the curriculum in its straightforward, unadorned, purely practical and raw state. It doesn't have the accruals and the technicalities of any particular tradition imposed upon it. It's just do these things and those things will result, and you will change as a consequence. You will come to know the depths of your own self. You will learn how to free yourself from all of the conditioning which has been ingrained into you through the processes of society, family, education. You will learn who you truly are, what you truly want to do, and how to do it. Those are the promises of Apophis. The magical techniques in there, again, are simple, straightforward techniques which are known to work. Some people who will pick up this book, if they're familiar with other books on the occult, may find it disappointing because it's not crammed full of rituals and invocations to various exotic demonic beings. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. And although these things can add a flavour to your magic, they are not what magic is. Magic is the building and the focusing and the projection of your own consciousness, the finding of your own inner fire and charisma, and taking that forward to change yourself, your life, and the world around you. That is magic. And that is what you will find in the pages of Apophis. Without bells and whistles, some people may find they're a bit insecure without those bells and whistles. You don't need them. You can add them once you know what you're capable of. Once you know that you are the magician. You are the power. Your will is what affects change. And that, my friends, is initiation. And that is the Apophis curriculum. And that is what you will find in this book. Next time, in the second video, I will discuss the second book in the series, Aigashjalm, the Book of Dragon Runes. And this is where I demonstrated how that curriculum could be taken and applied within a specific magical tradition, and how both the tradition and the curriculum can be enriched as a consequence when it's done properly. And that runic iteration of the Apophis curriculum is by far the most popular and developed of those which we've produced so far. And right at this moment, there are a group of people, the core of the Apophis Club, the members of my Patreon, who are working with me and forging through that runic course together now and taking it into areas which are so new that we are going to be producing more books as a consequence of what we're discovering together. But Apophis is the starting title. That's where you will find the core curriculum. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Hope you find it instructive. And if you've read any of the books and are curious about some of the others, keep your eyes open, because they will all be dealt with in one of these videos in due course. I'll be producing one every few days, so keep your eyes on the page for when they arise. The links will be on the page permanently, of course, and they will be available on my YouTube channel as well, so you can always go there to find them. Hope you find them interesting. Hope you find the books interesting as well. And if you feel led to join the Patreon, if you have a look on my Facebook page or in the information attached to this video on YouTube, you'll find a link to the Patreon, because that is where the people who are working together as a group in putting these things into practice can be found. My Patreon isn't just some sort of support module like some people's are. It is an actual working magical group, and it is the only place where you can work with me in this way. So I'll say goodbye for now. I hope you found that of interest, and I'll be back to talk about Aigashjalm very soon. Take care.